What's that?
It's a social studies assignment. It's family tree.
Oh, yeah. That's our family tree right there.
What's up, guys? Hope you guys are feeling it today. It is your host, Minato, and the Otaku Crew has assembled for episode 15 of the podcast. In this episode, we are going to be speaking about SpyFamily, or SpyXFamily, whichever way you like to say it. Before we get into that, I just want to invite you guys to check out the podcast on Anchor, YouTube, or on TikTok to see some fun highlights of the show, or any other podcast platform where you regularly get your podcast. That being said, let's take a look at who the crew is consisting of today. So joining me, we've got Tensa. What's up, Tensa?
Hey, what's up, guys? Chilling like a villain as always.
Let's go. Careful that you don't get assassinated, though, eh? Next, we got Andy.
I like peanuts.
I like turtles.
I like trains.
I bet you do. They're super oishi. And last but not least, in our little spy family, we got Wise Man Lee.
Yo, what's up, guys? Yeah, that was kind of random from Andy. I was not expecting that. And you know what's funny? I want to let you know that some of you might call it SpyFamily or SpyXFamily, but I call it Spy times Family. I turn into a math formula. So Spy times Family equals Fast and Furious because Vin Diesel is about to up this shit.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Nerd. You made it math. You made it lame, dude. You made it lame.
How dare you make it math? I can't read math.
You know I'm gonna bring him into this. It's all about family, bro.
There's always room for family.
You know what? That's fair. I'll take that. Okay. So today on our first topic, we're just going to start by talking about our general feelings about this show, and we're going to delve a little deeper into like specific stuff. So I'm going to get the ball rolling by saying I didn't expect to like this show as much as I did. But we're only halfway through. I think there's 7 episodes out right now at the time of recording this, or 6. So we're about halfway through the season so far, and I have to say, like, I fell in love with it after like the first episode, which is kind of rare for anime. I find, like, sometimes you need 2 episodes because maybe the plot has to get going, and the first episode is kind of slow. But like this one, I don't even know what it is, but it really got me. And like every episode, I'm like, I love this show, and I can't even put my finger on exactly why that is. So I'm curious to see if any of you guys have an answer to that. Andy, let's start with you.
I think you're not the only one in the anime community that felt that way, because when you see the charts, like first episode in, it's already number 1, and everyone just seems to love it. And from what I've been hearing in the online world, a lot of people have been thinking that the reason why SpyFamily is so popular is probably because of the family dynamic. Very rare in an anime do we get a very healthy looking family dynamic, something that's really like just wholesome.
True.
It's always the orphan, it's always the sad orphan who has like all these powers, who has to fend for themselves, but no, Anya's got a dad and a mom, and it's adorable.
I mean, you say that, but like underlying all of it is a lot of not wholesome, right? So it's,
yeah,
I got both of those.
But it's the fact that it's still, there is a family dynamic.
Family.
That it's the center of the whole show. So I think this has been a bit of healing for some people. I don't know. We're still very early into it, unless you're reading into the mangas. But for the anime, it's still pretty early into it. But from my first impressions of the first few episodes, they're just adorable, and Anya is the cutest thing.
Yeah, that is true. What about you, Lee? What'd you think?
Yeah, I agree with you guys. Like, the series is great. It kind of encompasses all aspects. So there's always a bit of a slice of life and gag, and you got the family aspect. And I think what makes us attracted to the series is the characters themselves, because they have so much of the backstory and lore behind it, like so much of that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's fun. I think the appealing also is that they're a fake family, right? They're trying to trick each other into thinking trick the world to thinking they're good, happy family, but they got their own little side stuff going on, which we'll get into soon. And kind of reminds me of the movie We're the Millers, where in that movie I think they had to be a fake family in order to achieve a goal or for a mission, and so it's kind of like that.
They were smuggling drugs.
Well, different circumstances here.
Yeah, and what about you, Tensa? What do you think about it?
I would say that overall, while I enjoyed the first episodes in plural, like the first 7 episodes, I will admit that the first episode was actually a very slow start off.
Mm-hmm.
In the sense that actually I almost gave up the show after the first episode.
Oh, really? Wow. Well, that's unfortunate.
But
blasphemy.
It was not that good, and Loid was empty. I'm sorry.
What do you mean? He was so cool.
I didn't find him cool. I actually found him to be an empty shell.
What? What the fuck?
But we'll explain on that later.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so harsh.
Literally. Well, I'm sorry, man. I think that the show really kicked off once the family dynamic really kicked in.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, it's why we were all there, right? Like, it's literally the namesake of the show.
Yes, I was just saying that the main character, the protagonist, by himself, does not carry the show at all.
No, you're right. No, I agree with that. No. It's the whole family that kind of carries the show.
Family.
All of their dynamic.
Anya carries it. Let's be real.
Yeah,
it's the kid that carries it.
Anya's the most adorable thing.
Anya's adorable.
Oh, she's so cute. But each character, I like when legendary. Oh, absolutely. But I like when they're starting to like hint at the backstories. I like how they're doing that pretty early. Because I think episode 2 they hinted to Loid's backstory a bit, and it's because I think it was Lee that you were saying this, how each character is like, once the whole family got in, like that's what really makes the story when they're all together. But each character is so different. I'm really excited to see like Anya's got a really interesting backstory. I'm sure Yor does, and then same as Loid. So this is gonna be interesting. I'm excited to see where the story goes from it.
Oh yes, and if you've seen the preview for episode 8 at the end of episode 7, you're in for a nice treat for Yor.
Yeah, it seems like it's a Yor-centric one again.
Yeah. You know what's funny though? For
prepare for a new running gag, guys.
No, but here's the thing. By the time we got to like halfway, like episode 6 and 7, I was thinking like we saw Yor, of course, and they already got married off early in the series, right around episode 2. And they mentioned the brother, and for each episode that came afterwards, we never got to hear the brother or see him afterwards. And I'm like, what's up with this guy? Where is he hiding or something? Wait, but that's it. I was like, where is he and everything? And then by the time we get to episode 7, then you finally get an introduction of him and everything. I was like, okay, finally, because I thought they were hiding him for some reason, like he might have something to do with like Loid's mission or something. Like I don't know what's going on, but now we finally got introduction.
Don't spoil anything.
No, I don't know anything. If anything,
no.
You know something, Tensa. I'm just guessing. I'm just speculating.
That's why I'm telling you not to overstep, because he actually has something to do with Loid.
Oh, there you go. We'll stop you right there. Don't tell us. Don't spoil it. I was just speculating. I was like, why are they hiding? They haven't shown him. Because literally, like, if you would think, if your sister got married, so like right away, quick, you would think like, oh, I want to go and see the guy who it is, but they kept waiting after an episode.
Because that hit him like a truck. Because keep in mind, like in episode 2, they were talking about a boyfriend.
True. Yeah. It's Loid that messed up.
And now when he's like, wait, married? What?
Yeah, because Loid came in and said, I'm the husband, and she's like, huh? Already?
Yes, like the look on his face says everything.
Yeah. So I want to bring it back actually to something that Wiseman brought up earlier, and then Andy touched on again. Is like the show kind of has a bit of everything, right? So it's like slice of life, but there's also suspense because they're all trying to pull off a ruse as a family. But there's also like action, right? Because it's like they're a spy and an assassin, and there's obviously the waifu appeal because Yor, and then it's wholesome because it does have the slice of life dynamic, and then like to add on to everything that makes it cool, there's like a bunch of lore to this to these characters, right? Like we don't know what the deal is with Anya yet.
Well, the thing
and we
about
don't
Anya
really-
is like, sorry, go on, continue. Sorry.
Yeah, no. I was just gonna say that like we don't know the deal with Anya yet. Like, yeah, okay, we know that she has these powers, but we don't know why that is or like anything about her backstory beyond that. And pretty much the same for the dad and the mom, right? And Yor. So like, there's a lot of intrigue compared to like a normal slice of life, which is really interesting.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's so true.
I was about to say something about Anya. Her backstory was actually mentioned by the information broker back in episode 2 or 3. Her
Yes.
backstory is already complete. They actually pointed out that she escaped the lab because, psychic powers.
Yeah.
And she went in and she jumped between families and basically got into an orphanage almost every time.
Right, but like we don't know
But
who
Tensa,
her mother is, right? Like we
exactly.
don't know.
I was going to go into that. Like we don't know her about her family, her actual parents. Like, but was she made in a lab?
And also,
As implied as per episode 5. How can I say this without actually hurting your feelings?
Go for it.
They might actually just not be there or relevant to the story because something terrible, like we don't have the details, but by her reaction when that
School
the
headmaster.
son of the last headmaster asked a question, there's a terrible implication behind it. I'm assuming that we might have more details, but it's pretty clear that by her reaction, they're not there anymore.
Right, but that still doesn't mean everything, right? Like there could be a lot that happened before then,
Yes.
other than just
we
like
don't-
her mom
like-
is dead now.
We can get
I
flashbacks
don't
to her
think
time
it's
with
as
her
simple
parents.
as that's the thing. I don't think it's as simple as that. That's the thing.
Mhm.
I don't think it's as simple as that because
I
you
think
have
it has
to
something to do with the war.
yeah.
Because that's a big part of the story is the
possibly.
whole war that's going on
It's-
between these two
and-
these two countries.
Yeah.
And if you go into the school that they're involved in all of the kids have parents that are involved in the war some way, somehow. So I do think that in the future there probably would be more details, or like because I think everything has to do with how did she become an expert in the first place.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, they're not just gonna be like, yeah, this character is psychic, but we're not gonna go into that at all, right? Like,
No. Like that is actually very interesting into how it came to be because it's explicitly stated that she was not born.
yeah. So we're definitely gonna find out about that, and it just adds to like all the intrigue and what captivates people so much with this show, I guess.
Can I add something?
Of course.
So you know how we said it kind of encompasses everything. So there is also a bit of the fantastical element in this show because
Yeah.
in this series, right? They already kind of set up like the real world. Like there's two countries, like the East and the West, having a feud, a war against each other, and that it looks like it takes place on like a actual real location with like real events going on during this time.
Yeah.
And so you can imagine like, oh, spies, yeah, they do exist in this world, like in our world too. Assassins, yeah, they also do exist in this world, like in our world. But Anya, with her psychic powers, that's something you would not expect in this kind of world. You're like, that's a fantastical element. You're like, oh, that came out of nowhere. I was not expecting this. So that's kind of intriguing.
No, you're saying we have sidekicks?
What a twist!
In
No,
our world, yeah,
that's not what
I
I mean.
wish.
I was going to say that there's more than just Anya. Anya's the obvious fantastical element, but
right, that's the one we know about. But
But no.
There could be more, yeah.
Like it's not pure fantasy in the sense of fantasy, but there's like a lot of Bond-esque elements to it.
Yeah.
that is actually unrealistic. Like Lloyd's prowess. Yeah, good luck trying to jump off a bridge without breaking your legs, dude.
Well, nothing about
Like-
anime is going to be realistic in the end. But have you guys
Yeah.
ever seen Man from Uncle?
No.
No.
Nope. Sorry. Nothing.
Well,
I heard good stuff about it, but never saw. Sorry.
I like the remake that they did of it, but essentially Man from Uncle takes place in the Cold War between Russia and the United States. It's like two spies, they have to work together. And so I just get from the setting, I get the same feeling because it's definitely very European, the whole setting,
yes.
and it's also very old fashioned. So it reminds me of like I don't know what time period this is supposed to be
I
set in,
think-
but I would be
is it-
surprised it's like Cold War time
It's
period.
definitely
similar,
It's definitely
even though it's a
Cold
fake
War
world.
era.
Yeah.
But if you pay more attention, the city that they're in is Berlin with a T on it.
See, that's
Ah.
exactly
How
Like,
did you
I
find
do
like,
like
like,
it.
if you took a look a little bit, like it seems that they were talking about East and West Germany going at war. That's how I understood.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Like that's the feeling that I got. Like obviously they changed the name, so it's like in fantastical. But when you have like the most obvious Berlin with a T on it, Berlin,
Yeah.
you're like, oh, I see what you did there, my guys.
You just blew my fucking mind.
And on top of that, Yor and Forger are decidedly German names. So
You know what, that
Your
makes
German
sense.
name?
Yep,
Yeah.
Yours a German
Yes,
name.
it is.
Okay. I wouldn't have known that. But like, yeah,
so
Forger.
Yeah,
so
I would have
you-
not known either. Yeah.
Yeah, Forger,
so
I can see that too. Yeah.
so that's why I'm like I had the feeling that they had that German feel in the Cold War era because it just made sense to me.
Mhm.
And it's a heavily spy era too, because the same thing in the
Yes.
Cold War, everyone is getting arrested for being a potential spy, and also this
Yes.
could also like relate to Lloyd's backstory, like the little flashback we had, because it looked like that might have been like
Both Lloyd and Yor
it'd be
actually.
World War II, potentially, or World War One. I
Because-
don't know.
Well, it would be
Because
World
even
War
Yor,
II.
well, not even
Yeah.
backstory. Like even Yor in her first introduction. Oh yeah, this is suspicious that you're single, and they're talking about someone in their late 20s being arrested for being a suspected spy. So I was like, oh dear.
Very suspect.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it's just
so-
like the kind of blind accusations that were flying back in that era, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And on top of that, her colleagues were actually petty enough to try and accuse
Get her
her of
addicted.
Oh.
Basically, get her arrested and all that, which is a
which is
bitch
pretty
move.
dirty.
It is.
And this is why for me, Lloyd messing up by like he wanted to be boyfriend and she just as husband right off the bat, making everyone drop was more. It was like chef's kiss, you know.
Nice!
So,
You know, it's funny.
I don't know if anyone else gets this vibe from the show, but honestly, like, it has the same like feeling that Monsters Inc. does to me. I don't know if anyone else gets that.
Monsters Inc.
No?
I don't-
Elaborate, please.
So, like,
Elaborate. I
Yeah,
have
why
no
do
idea
why
what
do you
you're
feel like that?
So, like, the coziness of the houses, like the insides, the old timey feel, and I think like the jazz, all give me like the vibe of Monsters Inc. of all things.
No, to be honest, I never noticed the music in this show.
What? Oh, dude, the music is like such a strong point.
I noticed this music in the in this anime for sure, and for me, it was more reminiscent of Bebop.
I've never watched Bebop, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah, and I cannot say anything for Monsters Inc. because I never actually watched those.
That's okay.
So now they mention that, you guys never played Professor Layton, have you?
No.
I have
No,
played
don't know
one
it.
of them.
'Cause I
Only
get
one of
that
them,
vibe, but then
it's been
again,
a
that's
while.
also a European vibe, like an old
Mhm.
old style European vibe from like the
It's
50s.
I feel like Leighton is actually older than the 50s.
Oh, well, Leighton is strange, but I love it. It's my favorite game.
And it's interesting. It's a fun game.
But when you mentioned the Monsters Inc. vibes, that's the first thing I thought of. But there's a coziness to this story that I think also is what appeals to a lot of people, because my biggest surprise, because I was a little late to getting on this show. I only started watching it maybe a few days ago. But I've been watching a lot of the clips and the people talking about it online, and everyone's big surprise was how popular it got and how it became number one and beat out Attack on Titan. It beat out like so many different animes. I forget like all the numbers, logistics, but people were getting really surprised considering how quickly it beat up after just having 1 or 2 episodes out. So everyone's really getting on this bandwagon, and I'm a little nervous because I fear that people's expectations of this anime may become way too high and people will become disappointed. Because
the hype is too much, eh? That's what you're saying?
And I fear for every anime series whenever that happens, or almost anything, when it gets hyped too much, then people's expectations get way too crazy, and then you lose it. And no one has like, I don't have expectations of this show, but I worry for it just a little bit.
Well, like, go on, Tenzo. Yeah, sorry, go on.
My expectation were the exact opposite.
Oh
yeah, because you didn't like episode 1.
Yeah,
not only that.
Low.
It's the fact that I felt Twilight to be an empty character in overall, but but I'll explain that later. It's more that the only reason why I even wanted to watch this show is because I wanted to see why Twitter was crying over it. So it was really more to add the salt to Twitter.
I mean, that's
by the way,
enough reason to do anything, really.
Yes. Andy, you said that you were late and because you only started to watch it a few days ago.
Yes.
I'm still the latest one because I watched all 7 episodes today.
Yeah, exactly. But it's okay because it also makes you the freshest one, right? Like you've got all this info like fresh in your brain to recall.
Oh yes. And I love how Loid talks about information war, which is what makes it more delicious, because it doesn't appear like your typical shonen stuff where it's like, oh, power of friendship. They're really putting a prime on knowing everything will get you somewhere. And on top of that, it's also the idea of going into infiltrating places and being, doing what Spy does while appearing at your most normal. So
I do love the spy messages that they put out throughout the episodes. Like
oh yes,
it's fun.
Oh yeah,
like you see that in real life too. Exactly.
I just like that potato puree. And there's a message on his plate, and he's like, I hate it when they contact me this way.
Yeah.
That was like for me, when like in episode 1, for example, when they did the newspaper thing, to me that was normal. But as the show progresses, we see just more wacky ways of contacting the guy. And I think that my favorite part is how the government, the spy agency, complain about the bills for castle and furniture.
Yeah, speaking of fantastical.
Yes, that was one of the fantastical elements as well, because I'm like, no one can actually just afford to rent a castle with furniture overnight. That's what I mean by other fantastical elements than the most obvious ones.
Yeah.
For sure, to a degree. Yours, I'm going to pressure point a cow.
That was cool.
That was cool.
Oh yeah, the rule of cool above all, but I'm just like, how does she knows the pressure points of a cow? That was my first question, but you know what?
Yeah,
it worked.
That just makes her backstory like all the more interesting, and
and
now it just makes you want to know even more, right?
Yeah, but you
And
don't want to
even
go
though that-
against her.
Mhm.
Like even though that we see bits and bits of her backstory, I'm very interested into how did they train her to become who she is,
Yeah.
for sure. Like because I'm like because in my mind it's like I swear if she has been locked up and forced to fight animals until they're basically just give up, like that might be it, but I don't know, you know.
Why don't we move it along now? So we talked
Go
a
ahead.
lot about the stuff that we do like about the show, right? I want to talk now about what we don't like about the show, and I'll start with my personal points. I think the names of the countries are stupid and very uncreative and boring, and I hate them because everything else in this show is great and very creative, and like they've got a really good like mix of everything that's really refreshing, right? Like it's not just one thing, just like we talked about. It's like slice of life and spy thriller and cute as hell, but also there's a ton of action and stuff like, and there's lore and everything, right? But then you get to the names and they're just like, oh, we have countries and they're in the east and west, so we'll call them, what is it? Esteros or whatever. Westalis and what's the other one?
Westalis and
And
Esterosa, yeah.
There you
Esterosa,
go.
I believe.
Yawn. Come on, man. Come on. Try a
Original.
little harder.
Original.
I hate it.
What kind of stupid name is that?
Was actually Ostania, but still.
That's still, yeah.
It's still bad. But the point is that I understand why you don't like it, because it's obviously fake names for West and East Germany, but I understand, like, why don't you try harder? I believe that the author was probably not that interested in naming the place in the first place because, again, Berlin.
Yeah, exactly. Like, come on, man. The names are so lazy.
Like,
I
like,
hate it.
like,
Lazy
like,
writing.
no, lazy world building, actually.
Yeah.
The
yeah.
writing is
I mean, but
is
it
actually
depends.
good.
No, but it depends.
The-
He put more efforts in other aspects than he did in like others. Like
Yeah, yeah.
he devoted more time and
I'm
effort,
saying that the location itself is more of a world building thing than writing in general.
Mhm.
But if it's a mangaka that's making the manga first, then he's writing everything, including the world building.
And definitely world building. I that's the thing. I would not consider writing lazy just because of his world building was poor.
I didn't say it was his writing. I'm just saying the names specifically are. But anyway.
Oh yeah, like you can tell that the guy didn't even try. He didn't even bother.
Exactly.
And
I actually want to cut in on that
Oh,
only
boy.
because, as someone who writes, I could understand the decision to make something as simple and childish as that for an anime that's supposed to be considered a little more on the childish side. Just because it's fun. If it was like super serious, super dark, and super brooding, I don't think this anime wouldn't be getting as much love as it does. But because their characters are weird, a little quirky,
and wholesome,
and
yeah, it's
very
wholesome
wholesome
anime,
and funny. So I think using colorful names like that is not poor writing. I think it's just the simplicity makes well for the story. Sure, he could have done like crazy, more complex names, but I think having that familiarity by making it that simple and stupid just makes it easy to understand.
I agree with you, Andy. I think it's dumbed down enough that you can watch it with your kid, but there's enough stuff in there for the adults to be interested in also, so it kind of balances out.
Okay, yeah, you make a good point.
Yeah, it's rated PG-13, so.
And to be fair, you're not the only writer here, so I kind of understand your point of view.
But we're used to writing more darker things, so we like complexity. But you got to simplify for the kids.
I'm also, but the thing is that for me, it's not even about that's not even a thing that I don't like about personally, I don't even care about the names because for me, the names were just unremarkable anyway. I literally remember Berlin at best because Anya said where she lived. and it had everything to do with Anya, nothing to do with the actual lore. So and the thing is that for me, it was not that important because the plot was so rich that to me it was not even an inconvenience because for all that we know, because for me it was more of those fake names representing West and East Germany. All that I had to say to myself is, oh, okay, the country is divided, and they're just gonna create war. Let's just gather tons of the plot was so interesting that everything else didn't matter.
Yeah, I get that, but I still think it's lame.
It is. Oh, I get it. I understand you.
Did you guys have anything else that, like any negative points? Lee, I think you wanted to say something.
I mean, in the meantime, I can actually give something that I did not like.
Yeah, you touched on it earlier, right? You didn't like Twilight.
I did not like Loid's character in the first episode at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because he was basically an empty shell, and he literally established himself as an empty shell, or at best being nothing but a mask.
That's true.
And to me, it was just terrible in general. Like, it was. I don't know if you've watched a show called Tower of God. For those who do, I had the same feeling with Ban. A character with no real agency, and I'm just a weapon for the government or something like that. And for me, it was just unfulfilling. It was so uninteresting. That was precisely the reason why I almost gave up on the show after the first episode, because everything was so bland. It was like eating paper. As the episodes progressed and that the family dynamic went on, the mask started to crack. Like, you see one crack in one episode, then you see 2 cracks, then you see suddenly 10 cracks on the mask.
Yeah, but that's the point of the show, right? Like,
that's what I enjoyed with Loid.
Mm-hmm.
That his mask is breaking off, and Twilight, the character, is falling apart.
Yeah. Okay.
Falling apart so that quote unquote Loid.
Do you mean that he's being more Do you mean that he's being more assimilated to the father role? Is that what you mean?
That's one way to put it. No, that's not what I said.
He's getting emotional now. He's using his heart. He's caring for other people.
He's having some humanity. That's
exactly.
what I was. Yes. Like, keep in mind that he was the by the way, I'm breaking up this relationship because you're not even interesting. Leaves. Oh yeah, I'm just a bioweapon. That's basically what I had in the first episode.
Well, that's it, because he was always mission driven, like focused.
Yeah, he was, and that was his only character trait, focus. But he had nothing else. It's like a guy that likes cars, but there's nothing else about it.
I don't know. I think he was a lot cooler than just that, but we can agree to disagree on that.
Yeah, we can agree to disagree for sure.
There's still a lot more to see.
True.
And keep in mind that was just first episode.
Yeah.
The more we started to see stuff, the more that he was interesting. Like, for example, around when he tried to adopt Anya with his little backstory of, now I see why I hate when kids cry. Well, he was probably implied to be an orphan himself.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of understood the feeling, but I also felt like that's not what led him to be more human as a character. It was like like when you leave the door half open, but you don't open the door all the way. And somehow I felt like Yor is the one who kicked the door open. And the originality, oh crap, I lost my ring. Grenade pin as fiance ring. Oh, that was just so good.
That was beautiful. That was so beautiful.
That was so corny that it worked.
It was, to me, it was not even corny. It was just like, when your ring got stolen, use the grenade pin. It always works.
No, I thought it
He's
was
like-
corny as absolute hell, but I loved it.
No, he just adapted to a situation. He's like, I'll use this.
And that's what I like about this guy. This guy's always prepared. Like how in episode 5, gets his suit muddy, changes suit, get his suit ripped because of an accident.
Good thing I had my
And-
backup suit.
Oh my
The
god,
fact
so
that
elegant.
To have backup was scary.
意識持参しておいてよかったですね。
The elegance.
Yeah, it's so
Yes,
elegant.
like-
I've
like-
never seen before.
Like it was so elegant that to Mr. Elegance himself, that was scary.
It was great. Andy, did you have any like negative points to the show?
I'll be honest. I think it's just a little too early for me to think to have any negative points. I do agree with Lloyd's character in the beginning, because now that you mention it, they could have added a little bit more to his character, like maybe just a little bit more to his backstory. But I also think that because I think the backstories of these characters are the biggest point of the story. So I can understand why they're potentially going slow with that. The only thing that like I'm afraid, of course, that the expectations are just going to be too high for me in the future. But I'm also the only negative thing is like if the story doesn't go the way I want it to go, I'm going to be upset. You know,
Yeah, that's fair.
it's not the first time I've been disappointed by an anime. So
Yeah.
I'm
Then you should
not
lower
sure.
expectations now.
I'm trying, but the internet has already put them too high.
Yeah,
But
so
there's
Yeah.
some things I'm expecting. I'm expecting like a flourishing romance to kind of start with some fun tension there. I want I definitely want to see some really fun the really fun family dynamics to really be the main point. I want some tension. I want some heartbreak in there. I want that. And if I don't get that, I'm gonna be upset. So that's my
Yeah.
only negative point, if you could call it a negative point.
I feel like it's pretty safe to.
I feel like the hype really overfed you.
Oof. So actually, I want to talk about that. So
Wait, can I add one more negative point? I don't.
yeah, go ahead.
Yes, it
Of
was
course.
your turn to begin with. Go ahead.
It's okay. It's okay. I think the one negative point I found for myself also was kind of like the pacing issues. Like for example, for episode 3 and episode 5. Episode 3 was when the family are hanging around doing random stuff. You know, going to restaurants, opera and stuff. You know, just the usual family things. And then episode 5 is when Anya's doing the pretend game with Loid to be like, oh, I want to play in the big castle. I want to be like the capture princess and you save me. Like I get it, those episodes are kind of meant for more character development, but I just found them to be kind of throwaway episodes and it's kind of boring.
Yeah.
But that's me
Like
personally.
they could have been better as like filler episodes, like between seasons.
They felt fillerish. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, there
Yeah,
could have been
it
other
felt like
stuff going
filler.
on around that time, but
The sad part is that they weren't.
Overall, but like
It was a cute episode though.
But I understand why like it felt like an unneeded episode. Like for me, because even me, the castle episode specifically, while I enjoyed it a lot, I was like, was this really needed at all?
Yeah,
exactly. That's how I felt.
Because
thing is, like, they had-
because the plot started by a guy being drunk, and as Lee said, it was exactly shaped like a filler.
Yeah, like they had maybe 1 minute total of like actual pertinent plot, and then the rest was just like, oh, let's go have a silly time at the castle. Which, to be fair, this entire show is just a silly time, right? But like,
Yes.
I need a little bit more to keep me engaged than just literally not doing anything productive, right? Like, there are other episodes that you know you can fit the silliness into advancing the plot to make it a little more engaging. Like, oh, is Anya gonna be able to be friends with the target's kid? And then there's
remember, like I said, it's
I
for
mean,
character
for
development.
those who are looking for romance, between Anya and that kid, I mean, you kind of see you see the flyer, like the flyer was already on the wall. You actually see it. I
That's
just
not
don't
what
know.
I said. I just said if she was going to be able to befriend him, because that was the original mission.
Have you seen episode 7?
Yeah. So I know what you're talking
Yeah,
about, but that's
I'm
just what.
saying that there
Yeah,
are
they're
signs.
hinting to
Yeah.
they're hinting to a
literally
romance
hinting
there.
that, yeah, like, so I'm saying that there's a hint that that mission might actually be a thing still.
Mm-hmm.
Like, obviously it's a rocky, rough start because I'm just gonna one punch him. But the apology and the guy's reaction and the fact that he was just, what is this feeling? And just, I have a feeling that we're gonna have to give it some time, but something might flourish out of that. Like, keep in mind that even out of needless episodes like the castle, there's always a follow-up to that episode. Like, for example, for the castle, Loid got contacted by food, and he literally got questioned of, okay, what's with all of this anyway? So
at least they call back to it, and it's not complete
yes,
throwaway.
and I like the callback about it, but point being is that it seems to be a show, like, the slow build-up seems to be purposeful because they need to really take their time on how they do things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why after the first episode, I quite enjoyed the slow pace because it was not supposed to be too fast. All of the things that you see, the dynamic between family and things like that, are things that you need to take slowly in the first place. So for me, like, I understood the need to not rush into something.
Yeah, I think actually the pacing is not too bad. Like, maybe it's a little on the slow side, but I've watched anime that are slower than that, and I find that this is like a good pace. I'm not complaining. Like, it's not like breakneck where you're like, oh my god, there's too much stuff happening, and it's gonna end in like three episodes. And it's not like super long like other anime where I've just been like, okay, we get it. You've spent like 12 episodes in this same scenario. Finish. Right, like it's moving along.
This is not as slow as Hunter x Hunter, if you know what I mean.
Exactly.
I know what you mean.
Oh god.
So that's why, and that's why I kind of enjoyed it, because it's like that porridge. This is not too hot. This is not too cold. This is just right.
Yeah, I'd say so. So I want to bring it back for our last little topic. On to something that we were talking about earlier, which is expectations for this anime. And I think, part of what makes these expectations so high for people is the fact that you've got like two juggernaut studios working on it, right? You've got Studio Wit and Clover Works, I think, right?
Yes, Clover Works is one of them.
Yeah, so like they're both working on it, and Studio Wit, I think, has a really good reputation already. So like you put both of these together and you've just got something that's kind of like built to win, I think. And that's probably part of what was hyping everyone up around it even before it released, was just like, you've got these two giant studios that are working together on this anime. It's got to be good, right?
I understand exactly what you mean, because as you don't like, if it was like a small studio, it's very likely that no one would care about it because poor animation quality, among others. And if a big studio had to take on it, well, the manga must be that good, right? So I understand where you got the idea from. I'm not too worried about it because of what kind of show it actually is. But I also understand that that people are you have high expectations, you expect high returns. It's basically a gamble, and when your first two episodes are number one, I really understand the risk of them being number one so fast, so early. But that's also why I didn't give myself any expectations whatsoever. Because, as Andy said, if you have too many expectations, you may end up disappointed if it just doesn't end in the way you want. And I actually expect SpyFamily to be a little long. And when I mean be a little long, I mean having a few seasons, because from the way I understood it, we're talking about going through a school year, so that maybe they will get into that honors thing to get the mission going. But I also expect the timeline in the story to be at least that one school year specifically.
Yeah, school year usually takes around 2 seasons, doesn't it?
Yeah,
like normal animes
so
don't spend like
so
until you get to the midpoint, then
yeah, like what I'm saying is that 2 seasons at least. That's what I see, because everything seems to be slow, but they're not really slow. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like we said earlier, it's like a good pace, solid.
Yeah, it's nice and easy, but it's moving for sure.
Mhm.
And so I do expect it to have at least up to 26 episodes, and like, I don't expect the climax to be super exciting, because that's how you get disappointed, guys. But I expect it to be at least somewhat satisfying.
Yeah, I think I have to agree with Tenza. Like, the animation does fit with the type of show it is. So because it's one of those silly shows, the animation doesn't need to be that crisp for us to be like blown away. And yeah, expectation wise, it's better to keep them low, because you might be surprised what comes later on. Like, eventually the secrets of the family will come out, for each individual, what they're hiding. It'll come eventually, but I think that this show will go on for a while. Not sure how long, but for a good amount of time.
Oh yes, and did you know that that what kept me staying is really how many times I got surprised per episode?
How many times?
Depending on which episodes, I get an average of 3 times to 5 times per episode.
Oh wow.
Because there's always something that just okay, and then something that I was just not expecting at all. Like how they went overboard with catching a thief.
Oh yeah, that's true.
I was like, wow, like I'm just like staring at the entire show, like,
yeah,
they went this far, and that surprised me. All of the running gags somehow surprised me, or the introduction of the homeroom teacher, aka Mr. Eleganto. That
he was
actually
great.
had me
He was
die-
great.
Yeah, that had me dying in a sense. Like I immediately wanted him into like as a regular character.
So you want to see more of him? Yeah, I definitely do want to see more of him.
Definitely. So, I am gonna call it here, guys, because we're running pretty long. And with that, I want to thank you guys for talking about this really creative show. I think we can all agree, like, it's a must-watch. So anyone that's listening, go out and watch it. It's fun as heck, right?
Definitely.
Yes, definitely
Agreed.
recommend.
And yeah, what's up?
In fact, it was on my watch list for a while, and I do recommend it as a top tier to watch.
There you go. If Tensa puts it out there, like, with the volume that in his library, it's a good show for sure.
And usually I don't take his advice, so that's something.
Emotional, damn it!
There you go. So with that, I want to thank you guys for listening to the 15th episode of the Otaku Crew podcast. Be sure to follow us on Facebook with the official Otaku Crew, or check out our Instagram or Twitter, Think Otaku Crew, or any socials. And of course, check out the podcast on any major platforms, including Anchor, YouTube, and the like. Share it with a friend, right? Interact as much as possible. Join the Discord if you haven't already. We have some fun over there. And thank you for listening. Have a good one, guys.
Bye.